So now we're ready for the self-esteem category of interventions. As I said earlier, self-esteem is the most vulnerable part, the thing that you got to watch out for and protect the most. What we want to do is we want to make them into a vessel of resilience, okay? We want to fill them with resilience by using the kind of positive behavior management that I was talking about. I can tell you a story about a kid. There was this kid who was only 7 years old, and he was really, really smart. And he was already in a self-contained classroom for emotional and behavioral disorders. And he lived with his mom and his grandfather. And so he came in one day, and he was coming in for his anger issues. So they bring him in, and one day he comes in and he just throws himself on the couch. And he's just despondent. And I said, hey, what's going on? And he says, oh, nothing. And I said, no, really, come on, tell me, what's the deal? What's got you going today? And he says, oh, it's just my grandfather. And I said, what? My grandfather. And I said, well, what about him? And he says, well, he's just the worst grandfather in the world. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? And he said, it's just too hard to explain. So then his grandfather comes in after him, and I said, well, tell me how he's been doing. And his grandfather says, oh, it's been terrible. He still doesn't follow directions. He never follows the rules. He's defiant. He's angry. And I said, and he went on to tell me the story about how when they were at the Twin Lakes camp, he took his shoes off and walked in the mud after he was told he wasn't supposed to. And he's reading me this list of all the things that he does wrong, and the kid is sitting there sinking into the couch and probably getting angry, right? Because all he's hearing about is the stuff that he is doing wrong, and he's getting sick of it. So I said, so you're telling me that he doesn't follow the rules and he doesn't do what you say? And the grandfather says, yeah, that's right. And I said, oh, well, how'd you get him here? And the grandfather says, what do you mean? And I said, well, he woke up this morning, right? And the grandfather says, yeah. And I said, did he get out of bed by himself, or did you have to drag him out? Oh, well, he got out of bed by himself when his mom told him. Oh, okay. And did he eat his breakfast himself? Oh, yeah, he ate breakfast. Did he get himself dressed, or did you have to fight him over that? No, he got himself dressed. I said, and he takes medicine in the mornings, right? Did he take his medicine? Yeah, he took his medicine. And I said, and then, when you got in the car, did he follow your directions on getting in the car to come over here? Yeah, he got in the car. And I said, did you have to tell him to buckle his seatbelt, or did he anticipate what you want and just do it without even having to give him an instruction? He said, yeah, he just buckled it on his own. And I said, so what you're telling me is from the time he got up this morning at 7:30 until now, which is 10 o'clock, he's followed directions and followed the rules every single time. And the grandfather says, yeah, he just doesn't follow directions or the rules. And this is really common. This is a common mindset that we can get into. We can get overly negative about a child. This can happen with a teacher, this can happen with a parent, and it's toxic. And it's toxic for both parties, okay? So we need to really be thinking about their self-esteem. This is an example of what can happen. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a school to observe a child, and the counselor will meet me and they'll say, oh, I'm so glad you're here. He's had a really bad day. So I go to watch, and I sit there for the last hour of school, and nothing happens. The kid's doing what he's supposed to. So I meet with the teacher, and they're like, oh yeah, right before we went to lunch, he wouldn't quit building with the blocks because he wasn't done yet. And then when we were coming back from lunch, he kept stepping on the heels of the kids in front of him. So he got an X for the first one, and he got an X for the second one. And once he gets 2 X's, that means he gets a trip to the office and it's a bad note home. Well, did he do anything else? No, he was fine the rest of the time. Again, this is something that happened for 10 minutes out of a 420-minute day. We've got a kid who did what he was supposed to 97.5% of the time. So we need to be really careful about how we interact with these kids, about their behavior, because again, it's like loading software onto their hard drive. We want to be building them up. We want to teach them they can, they do, and they will. to be giving them a success identity instead of a failure identity. You know, there's lots of ways to do this. If they're not reading well, but they can read a little bit, great. Send them to the kindergarten room and let them read to those kids. Send them to the life skills class and let them help with those kids. Give them something they can do in your household that they do every day that they can do well, so they can be contributing, can create a success identity instead of a failure identity.